Way number 55 on how to pass the January 2020 Chemistry Regents. What is the molecular formula for this compound? A molecular formula is simply all the atoms in that formula. So we have three C's and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 H's, making this answer choice 4. If you were to get the empirical formula, you would divide this by the greatest common factor, which would be 3, and you would end up with CH2. So CH2 would be the answer if they asked for an empirical formula, but they don't, so we'll go with choice 4. Way number 55 on how to pass the January 2020 Chemistry Regents. Write the empirical formula for acetylene. Well, in this passage here, it tells you that acetylene has a formula of C2H2, which is its molecular formula. And to go from a molecular formula to an empirical formula, you want to divide by the greatest common factor, which in this case will be 2. So when you divide everything by 2 here, you end up with CH, and you get 1 point for that short answer question. The order of the elements do not matter. Way number 55 on how to pass the June 2022 Chemistry Regents. Which term represents the simplest whole number ratio of atoms of the elements in a compound? Well, that's going to be the empirical formula, because when you go from a molecular formula to an empirical formula, you're going to divide by the greatest common factor, giving you the simplest whole number ratio of those atoms. Way number 55 on how to pass the January 2023 Chemistry Regents. Explain why the formula for tetraboric acid is an empirical formula. Well, an empirical formula is when a formula is written in simplistic form, which you do by dividing by the greatest common factor. So, the formula is the simplest whole number ratio of atoms of the elements in the compound, or ultimately, it's a formula that cannot be reduced. Way number 55 on how to pass the June 2023 Chemistry Regents. Write the empirical formula for glucose. An empirical formula is a formula written in simplest form, which you get by dividing by the greatest common factor from the molecular formula. Well, glucose, if you don't recall, is C6H12O6, and C says the reaction produces glucose and oxygen. So that's oxygen, that's glucose, that's water, and that's carbon dioxide. So what we're going to do is we're going to divide C6H12O6 by the greatest common factor, which is 6, and you end up with CH2O. The order of the elements may vary. Way number 55 on how to pass the August 2022 Chemistry Regents. A structural formula differs from a molecular formula in that a structural formula shows the arrangement of atoms. So if the structural formula shows you the arrangement of atoms, a molecular formula shows you how many atoms there are altogether, and an empirical formula will be when you divide by the greatest common factor, showing you the smallest ratio of those atoms. Way number 55 on how to pass the January 2024 Chemistry Regents. Which type of chemical formula shows the arrangement of the atoms in a molecule? Well, when it comes to formulas, you have a molecular formula, you have an empirical formula, and you have a structural formula. A structural formula is going to show the arrangement of the atoms in a molecule.